Now, you've been screening this in front of a lot of church leaders and
Yes.
the faith community. What kind of response are you getting?
Phenomenally good, breathtakingly good, just incredibly good. Routinely standing ovations, tears rolling down people's cheeks. Very, very good response indeed.
Ben Stein's movie Expelled is currently rated at 9% on the movie review site Rotten Tomatoes. And just to put that into perspective, Catwoman in 2005 won Golden Raspberries in the categories of Worst Picture, Worst Actress, Worst Director and Worst Screenplay, and even at that actually carries a better rating than Expelled.
Routinely standing ovations, tears rolling down people's cheeks. And, the father would be off at compulsory work, the mother would have already been gassed, so they would take the child and give him or her an overdose of barbiturates to kill him. And that was horrifying beyond words. And that's where, in my opinion, this is just an opinion, that's where science leads you.
That's right.
Love of God and compassion and empathy leads you to a very glorious place. Science leads you to killing people.
Yeah, good word, good word.
Science leads you to killing people. Yeah, good word, good word.
It's frankly revolting that Stein found anyone who would agree with such a sickening opinion. A few of the things that science has done for us. Science has extended the average lifespan from about 25 to 70 years. Science has eradicated smallpox, which in the 20th century alone killed about 500 million people. That's about 10 times the military death toll of the same period. The Haber process is estimated to feed about 1/3 of the people on the planet. That's a single scientific discovery which feeds about 2 billion people. The numbers saved by water treatment are in the billions, and these are just a few of the effects that most people are not aware of. Scientific understanding permeates virtually every aspect of our lives. It brings us clean water, ample food, modern medicine, worldwide travel, instant worldwide communication, and so on. After this, it's not difficult to see why Stein's appraisal that science leads to killing people is frankly sickening. However, Stein also seems to have an equally callow commitment to his statements on religion too.
Yet leader of a huge army with advanced weapons. There was Hugo Chavez of Venezuela, who openly worships Fidel Castro, who's turned Venezuela into a shambles, but is one of our main sources of oil. Not president body, but president spirit was Kim Jong-il, the dear leader of North Korea. It's the most repressive state on earth, with an enormous military, nuclear weapons, and missiles capable of reaching Japan. When I saw these guys, I got a queasy feeling. What if Ahmadinejad attacked Saudi Arabia and blocked the Straits of Hormuz? What if North Korea, just out of the whims of its dear leader, attacked South Korea and started rocket bombing Tokyo? What if China chose that moment to attack Taiwan? What would we do if they did all this simultaneously? We don't have much more than a few 100,000 combat-ready soldiers and Marines. Roughly half of them are tied down in Iraq. We don't have anything like what we need to repel North Korea, help the Saudis repel Iran, and stop the Chinese from invading Taiwan all at once. The fact is, in our rich nation of 300 million, we can barely field a military force that can fight one fairly small guerrilla war, let alone protect the world from dangers like Ahmadinejad and the dear leader of North Korea. The dangerous truth is we are a naked, vulnerable superpower unless we went to the nuclear option immediately, an obviously terrifying outcome for everyone. We've let this nation's military shrivel and get ground down to a nub while we've cut taxes and created a huge deficit and high prosperity. This is terrifying stuff.
Stein, you seem to have forgotten your earlier pious statements about the love of God and compassion and empathy leading you to a glorious place. This is a man fantasizing about a conflict that cannot happen as a selling point for expanding the US military budget from one that constitutes about half of the world's military spending to one capable of world conquest. Firstly, none of the conflicts of Stein's violent fantasies involve self-defense. They involve attacking other countries, foreign entanglements, and for some strange reason the presumption that the only conceivable resolution of his fantasies is the US declaring war on almost everyone. Naturally, in reality, the leash of globalization has meant that countries really do not have that much latitude on their actions. The soft power exercised by global trade, and that includes the 95% of the people on Earth who are not American, is an effective and benign stabilizing influence. It's difficult to contrive that a military-industrial complex capable of challenging the rest of the world could be trusted to exercise the self-control of not attaining that which it desires through the implementation of its uncontested military power. This is an instrument that mankind would be better off not constructing. However, I am curious as to how Stein reconciles his violent fantasies about the US going to war with a significant portion of the rest of the world in self-defense, with his statements about love of God, compassion and empathy leading you to a glorious place, while science leads you to killing people.
Very much in my heart. I've always questioned Darwinism, because Darwinism leads to social Darwinism, the belief that some races are superior to other races.
Naturally, Stein has a very good point here, that populations declaring themselves better than everyone else by some divine order is unhealthy for civilizations. Unfortunately, Stein's religion involves the belief that he is a member of a divinely appointed race, of God's chosen people.
They got a hearing before a judge who said, intelligent design isn't science. And they're now proudly touting that. That doesn't mean a thing. Courts also say that abortion is clearly legal and is not murder, and that's nonsense too. Courts until 1954 said that black people could not sit next to white people in schools. Courts until the Civil War said that black people were just slavery or just chattel like furniture or horses. So what courts say doesn't dictate anything to me in terms of what's right or wrong. I am an economist by training from Columbia. I worked as an economist very briefly. Then I went to Yale Law School, and then I was a trial lawyer for a while. So what courts say doesn't dictate anything to me in terms of what's right or wrong.
For a man with a law degree, Stein seems to show a pretty contemptuous regard for the rule of law and its necessity for a safe and stable civilization. Indeed, he seems to be flirting with the idea that you shouldn't obey laws if you don't like them. Jolly good for the spirit, I'm sure, but regrettably, if obeying the law becomes optional, then there is no rule of law. A civilization where there is no rule of law is called an anarchy.
I am an economist by training from Columbia. I worked as an economist very briefly. Then I went to Yale Law School,
But this is kind of, you've put your finger on something very scary, which is that there are very few places where more nonsense is spoken than in universities. I mean, universities, which are supposed to be the residual fortress of knowledge and sense, are the residual fortress of nonsense.
You know, we've got only a couple minutes left. You've got the floor. Why should people, just talk to the audience there, why should they go see Expelled, No Intelligence Allowed?
Because we'd like them to have a vision of mankind as being something other than specks of mud and specks of dirt hit by lightning. We'd like them to have a vision of mankind as having a divine origin. We'd like them to have a vision that they and their fellow human beings are in touch with the divine spirit and that they owe it to themselves.
We can barely field a military force that can fight one fairly small guerrilla war.
To treat other people as if they were part of the divine.
We don't have much more than a few 100,000 combat-ready soldiers and Marines.
And they owe it to themselves to respect themselves and their bodies.
The dangerous truth is we are a naked, vulnerable superpower.
As if they were a part of the divine, and to know that they are in touch with the divine spirit in the universe. And gives them hope.
Unless we went to the nuclear option immediately, an obviously terrifying outcome for everyone.
Good. Good word. You might be a rabbi or a preacher someday. That was good.
Thank you very much.
Just add it to your list there.
Praise from Caesar is praise indeed. Thank you very much.
Ben Stein.
The dangerous truth is we are a naked, vulnerable superpower. Unless we went to the nuclear option immediately, an obviously terrifying outcome for everyone. We've let this nation's military shrivel and get ground down to a nub.